The first question is on why is India taking keen interest in the Arctic region? Now, understand the nature of the question. The first is it's specifically talking about why is it that Arctic region should go on to interest anyone at all. Of course, India is going to be one of these countries that will go to have some degree of an attraction towards the Arctic region. Now, in trying to deal with it, this is one of the topics where three things will be expected from a candidate. The first is the dimensions of interest that any candidate is able to take. That is he going to be talking about only ecological interest, economic interest, or maybe only geopolitical interest, or all of them? That's number one. Second is that this answer is going to be by and large information filled. That is, it will go on to have all of these components, and a candidate will be required to know almost everything about this topic and all the dimensions of this topic. The third is going to be associated with there is how is it that and how many diagrams is it that the candidate is in a position to draw. Now, it is one of those topics that will not going to have any type of a flow diagram, but it will go on to have a diagram which a candidate can go on to draw, and that goes on to depend on the efficacy of this candidate to be able to draw a fast diagram of the world and show how is it that the world is going to be getting affected because of any type of a development taking place in the Arctic region. And these are the three aspects that a candidate is required to follow, and these will be three expectations from the candidates. Now, beginning with it, we're going to say although the Arctic region belongs to the whole of the world, and more properly, it belongs to humanity, the scenario involving the significance of the Arctic ranges from its economic interest to academic interest to geopolitical interest or even to climatic interest, and that is something very, very obvious. The climatic interest is the warm Arctic means cold continents in winter. The northern hemisphere will have harsher winters and longer lasting dry condition. That is warm Arctic means that is the continents will be cold. This is largely because greater amount of ice will go on to melt. Melting of the ice will go on to withdraw the energy from the atmosphere, and in that process that will go on to bring about a lowering of the temperature in the region. So the winters will be harsher, the winters will be drier, and the conditions will also be drier, particularly in the summer season. That is a climatic interest. The economic interest in this case is going to be associated with the sea route. The northern sea route along Russia's edge, that is likely to be free of ice first. That can go on to reduce the sailing distance between Asian ports and northern Europe by almost 40%. The other major Arctic shipping route is going to be in the Northwest Passage, which connects Europe with Asia, or Europe and Asia. It is nearly 5,000 nautical miles shorter than the 12,600 nautical miles distance between Europe and Asia through the Panama Canal. And that's another part of it, as you can go on to take a look at this diagram that goes on to show that part. Arctic will also open up major shipping hubs and ports at the cost of lower trades in Asia hub. Particularly if you can go to take a look at it, that is Singapore is going to be one such type of an example, which has a lower hub price, and consequently it is going to be one of the most sought after locations. Moreover, it will become easier to transport oil from the Arctic reserves to East Asia, Americas and Europe than from the Middle Eastern region. Of course, Middle Eastern is always in any case going to be in turmoil, and that will go on to reduce the market of the Middle East. India will go on to become much more sure of the fact that it will keep on getting its oil. India has already have several ships operating on the route. opening of the Arctic region will go on to give a good amount of fillip to the India's shipping industry. The second of this economic interest is going to be associated with the reserves of gas and oil that the Arctic region can go on to have. Arctic can supply large amount of gas and oil which can reduce price, as it has 13% of oil in the world in just 3 geological provinces. Now, it's possible that we can go on to find more geological provinces. More than 70% of mean oil resources are estimated to occur in 5 provinces. Large amounts of these resources go on to occur offshore, making it easy to explore. India's ONGC Videsh has an eye over these resources, and as India has been able to extract oil in Sakhalin in Russia, also in Venezuela, it will be an expertise of the ONGC to find oil in this region as well. The third is, in view of the political conflicts as in the Middle East, the supply of these energy resources will become significant, and India will go on to have its presence felt in this area. Now, this is what we have been talking about, that the Middle Eastern region is going to be always affected by some degree of a turmoil. Even if it is that they want peace, the superpowers will not going to allow them to be living in peace at all. And that's the reason we're going to say that the supply of these energy resources will become significant. And India will go on to be having its presence felt in the Arctic region. So that goes on to the third concern that India can go on to have. Ecologically and academically, the interests are going to be very different. That is, ecological interest and academic interest are going to be associated with furthering the research in Arctic region as they have been doing it in Antarctic. One is the Arctic marine ecosystems are very unique. They are unique in the sense that they're going to have a very high proportion of shallow water and coastal shelves. The continental shelf in the whole of the Arctic region is very, very wide, one of the widest. That's the basic reason that we are able to find petroleum in these regions, in these areas here. In common with the terrestrial and the freshwater ecosystems in the Arctic, they experience strong seasonality in sunlight and low temperatures. We are talking about in common with terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems in the Arctic region, they are able to experience a strong seasonality. That is, summers are extreme summers and of course winters are going to be some of the winters. And moreover, the continental shelf being shallow region, it is distinctly possible that the sunlight is able to penetrate all the way to the surface of these continental shelves. The photic zone is very large and photic zone is very productive. Now that is why it is an area of interest in the region. Second is, ice cover is a particularly important physical characteristics affecting heat exchange between water and atmosphere, light penetration to organisms in the water below, and providing a biological habitat above. For example, the seals that are going to be found in this region, walrus that is going to be found in this region within ice. And this ice cover is going to be significant because the top surface goes on to become thick, and that goes on to have a thick solid layer of ice, and beneath it there is going to be a substantial amount of exchange that takes place and in which a good number of organisms also go on to live. Third is the simplicity of the Arctic marine systems together with the specialization, that is ecological niche that they go on to occupy. We are going to be talking about a specialization of many of these species makes them very, very sensitive to environmental changes. Now these type of environmental changes are going to be, some of these type of changes are associated with climatic change, exposure to higher levels of ultraviolet radiation, any type of a temperature change in the water, maybe even to the tune of 0.5 degree centigrade, 1 degree centigrade is going to be very significant. And of course, any amount of a contamination that will go on to take place, that is going to be very, very significant in this region, that will go on to affect it in more than one way. Last of it is that is many scientists are considering that Arctic region can go on to be a good region for geoengineering. That is the ecological and academic. The last part is going to be that associated with minerals. The Arctic is believed to be holding about a good amount of undiscovered oil, something like 13% of the world's undiscovered oil, 30% of the world's natural gas, and 20% of the undiscovered natural gas liquids also. And there is no region in the world that can go on to have so much amount of a reservoir in general as it is going to be found in this place. No country owns the geographical north pole of the region of the Arctic Ocean surrounding it, and like Antarctica, the Arctic should not be exploited for any activity other than scientific expeditions. We have developed what has been happening in the Antarctic region, where because of the sector principle, there is the whole of Antarctic region has got itself divided, and that is significant because the others contend that its resources belong to the entire of the world. India must go on to have its presence felt in the whole of this place. That's going to be its mineral resources. And lastly, of course, it is going to be the geopolitical interest that the country and the whole of the region can go on to have. Russia will go on to have a stronger economy because shipping lanes will be open for a time along its northern coast most of the summers. That's largely because of increasing the temperature. And Russia will be able to export and import much more easily than it has been doing it right now. Now, this will go on to interest India because India will have to recast its policy towards Russia. It will go on to have these things in its mind before it can go on to think about a Russian policy.